Hey, did you know that the gentle hum of white noise, your go-to for soothing your baby to sleep, could actually cause permanent hearing damage if it's just a tad too loud? Yeah, I was floored when I first stumbled across that. 1 minute you're thinking it's the magic trick to a peaceful night, and the next, you're sweating over whether you've been risking your little one's ears. Let's dive into this hidden danger, because trust me, you don't want to miss a single detail on how to keep that sweet slumber safe. So let's peel back another layer. How loud is too loud for those tiny, precious ears? You might think it takes a rock concert to do harm, but for babies, even a whisper can turn into a warning if it's constant. Picture this. You've got that white noise machine cranked up near the crib, thinking it's drowning out the world. But what if it's drowning out their future too? Safe levels, according to the experts, hover at 50 decibels. Think a quiet chat over coffee. Or up to 60 decibels per the CDC, like a normal convo with your bestie about a yard apart. But here's the kicker. Many machines blast way past that, even at what you'd call a safe distance. I've seen parents, just like you, set up a machine thinking it's all good, only to realize it's louder than a bustling street corner. And the risk, it's not just a one-off loud bang like fireworks. It's the slow, sneaky buildup of noise over hours, days, weeks. That's what can chip away at their hearing, bit by bit, until it's too late. I remember chatting with a mom at a playgroup who swore by her machine, placed right by the bassinet, until she tested the volume on a whim. Her face went pale when she saw the numbers. So, are you sure your setup isn't pushing the limits? Let's unpack this together, because I've got the nitty-gritty on how to check and why it matters more than you might guess. First off, understanding the science behind noise exposure for infants isn't just academic, it's personal. Their little ear canals are so much more sensitive than ours, picking up every vibration like a tiny amplifier. Continuous sound above safe levels doesn't just annoy, it stresses the delicate hair cells in their cochlea, the ones responsible for translating sound into brain signals. Over time, those cells can get damaged, and here's the heartbreaking part. They don't grow back. That's why hearing loss from noise isn't just about missing a few words. It can mess with how they learn to talk, how they pick up on stories you read at bedtime, even how they sound out letters when they're ready for school. Studies back this up hard. The American Academy of Pediatrics isn't messing around when they cap nursery noise at 50 decibels. And the CDC's 60 decibel limit isn't a suggestion, it's a safeguard. But let's get real. How many of us have actually measured what's coming out of that little box by the crib? I'll bet not many. I didn't, not at first, until I started digging. And when I did, I found a 2014 study that tested 14 different white noise machines. Yep, the kind you probably have. And the results were a wake-up call. They checked volumes at 3 distances: 12 inches, like right on the crib rail, 39 inches, think a nearby table, and 79 inches across the room. Guess what? At max volume, every single one blew past 50 decibels at the closer spots. Even worse, at just 12 inches, 3 hit over 85 decibels, louder than heavy traffic, loud enough to damage adult ears with long exposure, never mind a baby's. Imagine that humming away all night, every night, right by their head. I've been there, setting up a machine for my own little ones. Thinking closer is better to mask the chaos of a busy house. But after reading that, I couldn't sleep myself until I moved it way back. And don't just take it from me. There's a reason pediatricians are sounding the alarm on this. Noise-induced hearing loss isn't always from a single blast. It's often a slow thief, stealing bits of sound perception over time. For babies who are wiring their brains for language every day, That loss can mean missing the coos and babbles that turn into words. It can mean struggling to hear the difference between cat and bat when they're learning to read. I've watched a family wrestle with this. Their toddler was late to talk, and after testing, the audiologist pointed to early noise exposure as a likely culprit. They had no idea their sleep aid was part of the problem. So let's talk benefits too, because I'm not here to scare you off white noise altogether. I've seen it work wonders. There's solid proof it helps babies, and honestly, all of us, drift off faster. A gold standard study with 40 newborns, just days old, split them into 2 groups. One with white noise, one without. The results? 80% of the white noise babies were out cold in 5 minutes flat. Only 25% of the others made it that quick. I've lived that difference. Nights where the hum settled a fussy little one like a charm, cutting down on those midnight wake-ups that leave you bleary-eyed. It's not just about falling asleep, it's about staying asleep, giving them, and you, longer stretches of rest. Research ties white noise to fewer nighttime stirrings, which, let's be honest, is a lifeline when you're running on fumes. But here's where we circle back. It's only a win if the volume's safe. If it's not, you're trading one problem for a bigger one. Let's picture a night in your house. Baby's down, finally, after a marathon of rocking and shushing. You flip on the white noise, set it near the crib, because, hey, it's gotta block out the dog barking or the older kids' late-night giggles. You tiptoe out, thinking you've nailed it. But what if that machine, so innocently humming, is pumping out sound at 70, 80 decibels? That's not soothing. That's stressing their tiny system. And it's not a one-night thing. It's every nap, every bedtime, adding up. I've been in those shoes, juggling a toddler and a newborn, desperate for quiet. I'd crank that machine without a second thought, until I learned how close I was skating to danger. So, how do we use this tool without turning it into a trap? That's the million-dollar question, and I've got the answers we all need to sleep a little easier. Now, here's a twist you might not have seen coming. Are you sure that machine isn't closer than you think, even if it's across the room? That same 2014 study I mentioned dropped another bombshell. Even at 79 inches, basically the other side of a small nursery, all but one machine still hit over 50 decibels at max volume. That's wild, right? You think you've played it safe by moving it off the nightstand, but the sound waves don't care about your good intentions. They bounce off walls, creep through the quiet, and still reach those little ears louder than they should. I've caught myself assuming distance equals safety, only to test it one night with a borrowed gadget and realize the hum was still pushing 55 decibels from what I thought was far enough. It's not just about where you plop it down, it's about the space itself. Small rooms, hard floors, even the way the crib's positioned. Sound travels sneaky like that. And let's talk real life for a second. I know a couple who thought they had it figured out. Machine on a shelf, way across from the crib. Volume on medium. They were stunned when a quick check showed it was still too much, all because their nursery had bare walls that echoed every note. They had to rethink everything, and it got me thinking too. How many of us are guessing instead of knowing? That's where the danger hides, in the assumptions. And it's not just the machine's spot. It's how we use it over time. Babies sleep, 12 to 16 hours a day sometimes? That's a lot of exposure if the decibels are creeping up. The risk isn't a dramatic explosion of sound. It's the quiet grind of hours upon hours, night after night. I've watched parents at workshops light up with worry when this clicks. Suddenly, they're picturing every nap, every bedtime, wondering if they've been chipping away at something they can't fix. So let's not guess. Let's get specific, because there's a way to measure this. and I've got the lowdown on how to make sure you're not rolling the dice with their hearing. It starts with facing the fact that sounds okay to me isn't good enough. Our adult ears are a lousy judge for what's safe for them. I've learned that the hard way, thinking I could trust my gut until I saw the numbers for myself. And trust me, when you see those digits flash higher than they should, it's a gut punch. So are you ready to double check your setup? Because what I've got next will change how you hear every hum in that nursery. Let's hit the peak of this. Those 85 decibels some machines blast at close range aren't just numbers. They're a screaming red flag that could alter your child's life forever. Picture heavy traffic roaring by. That's the level we're talking about, right next to a crib where your baby's supposed to be dreaming. At 85 decibels, prolonged exposure can damage even grown-up ears. So imagine what it does to a newborn's fragile system. Those tiny hair cells in their inner ear, the ones that pick up every sound, can't take that kind of assault night after night. Once they're gone for good. No second chances. Isn't the fallout? It's not just about turning up the TV later in life. It's about missing the building blocks of language right now. Speech development starts with hearing. Every coo, every giggle, every mama they try to mimic. If noise damage muddles that input, they're playing catch-up before they even start. Same goes for learning. Reading skills, listening in class, even social cues all tie back to clear hearing. I've sat with parents who didn't realize this until their kid was struggling to form words at 2-3 years old, and the audiologist traced it back to early, unnoticed noise exposure. One family I know had their machine right on the crib rail for months, because it worked so well to calm their colicky baby. They had no clue it was hitting levels that high until a routine check flagged a hearing issue. The guilt in their eyes, the what-ifs they couldn't shake, it sticks with me. And the data doesn't lie. That 2014 study isn't some outlier, it's a warning shot. All 14 machines tested blew past safe limits at 12 and 39 inches. 3 hit that 85 decibel danger zone just a foot away. Even at 79 inches, most were still too loud. That's not a fluke, that's a pattern. And it's not just about one bad night, it's cumulative. Every hour above 50 to 60 decibels adds to the risk, especially for babies sleeping half the day or more. Their brains are wiring for sound every second, and if that input's distorted by damage, the wiring goes wrong. I've dug into the science, and it's brutal but clear. Noise-induced hearing loss can start so subtle you don't notice until milestones slip by. But here's the flip side. I'm not saying ditch white noise. I've relied on it through sleepless nights with my own, seen it turn chaos into calm. That study with 40 newborns, 80% asleep in 5 minutes with white noise, versus a measly 25% without. It cuts wake-ups, stretches rest, and sometimes it's the only thing between you and losing your mind at 3 a.m. I've had nights where that hum was my lifeline, masking the creak of floorboards or a sibling's chatter. But the stakes are too high to use it blind. Safe volume isn't a guess, it's a must. So how do we keep the magic without the menace? Let's break it down with real steps, because I've tested this in the trenches of parenthood, and I know what works. First, distance is your friend. Place that machine as far from their sleep spot as you can. Think, across the room or even outside the door if you're worried. I've shifted mine to the doorway to block hallway noise, and it still works without being in their face. Second, check the volume. For real, don't trust your ears. Grab a sound meter app, something reliable, and test it where they sleep. Put your phone in the crib, play the machine, and watch the reading. If it's over 50 to 60 decibels, turn it down until it's not. I've done this late at night, half asleep, and caught levels creeping up to 65 before I adjusted. Third, don't leave it on 24/7. Once they're awake, switch it off. There's no point piling on exposure. And if close range freaks you out, try it just outside the room. I've set mine in the hall during naps, and it still muffles the world without hovering over them. These aren't just tips, they're shields. Because I've seen what happens when you don't think twice. Those quiet regrets from parents who wish they'd known sooner. The benefits of white noise are real, but only if you guard against the risks. Every decibel over the limit is a gamble, and I'm not willing to bet on something as irreplaceable as their hearing. Are you? Now, let's lighten this up a bit before we wrap. Don't let that white noise machine turn your nursery into a front row seat at a rock concert. I mean, come on. We're aiming for lullabies, not electric guitars shredding through the night. I had a moment once, fumbling with one of those apps to check the volume. Standing there in my pajamas at midnight, squinting at my phone like some sleep-deprived scientist. A reading pops up, 62 decibels, too high. I crank it down, test again, and I'm grinning like I just defused a bomb. It's almost comical how much drama goes into a tiny hum, but when it's about your little one, every tweak feels like a superhero move. And let's be real, we've all got those parenting wins that sound ridiculous out of context. Like the time I dragged a machine halfway across the house, testing spots like I'm staging a Broadway show, just to find that sweet spot where it's effective but not overpowering. I landed on sticking it by the door, and suddenly the chaos of my older kiddo banging toys faded into a distant murmur. It worked, and I felt like I'd cracked some ancient code. But here's a funny little trick I picked up. Sometimes I'll hum a lullaby over the white noise just to double check I can still hear myself. If I can't, it's too loud, and I'm back to adjusting. It's low tech, sure, but it saved me from second guessing more than once. And honestly, isn't that what we're all doing? Piecing together these quirky little hacks to keep our babies safe and snoozing? I've heard tales from other parents that'll make you chuckle, like one who rigged up a cardboard barrier to direct the sound away from the crib, swearing it dropped the decibels just enough. Hey, whatever works, right? But behind the laughs, there's a real warmth in knowing we're all trying to shield those tiny ears from harm. It's a shared mission, those late-night tweaks and whispered worries. I've been there, hovering over a crib, adjusting dials with bated breath, just hoping I've got it right. And when you do, when the volume's safe, the distance is good, and they're sleeping like a dream, there's nothing sweeter. It's not just about dodging a risk. It's about giving them the quiet they need to grow, to dream, to hear every story you'll tell them someday. So take a second to giggle at the absurdity of playing sound detective, but don't skip the step. Test that machine, move it if you have to, because those little victories add up. I've learned to laugh at my over-the-top caution, but I'll never stop double-checking. Because at the end of the day, it's not just noise. It's their future humming in the background, and I want every note to be perfect. So here we are. White noise can be your best friend or a silent foe, all depending on how you wield it. Keep it safe. Keep it smart. Place that machine far from their sleep space. Check the volume with a solid app to stay under 50 to 60 decibels, and switch it off when they're awake. It's not hard. Just a few tweaks, but it guards against a risk that's too big to ignore. Permanent hearing loss that could steal their chance to learn and grow without struggle. I've seen the magic of a good night's sleep with this tool, but I've also seen the heartbreak when it's misused. Don't let that be your story. If you found this deep dive helpful and want more real talk on keeping your little ones thriving, hit that like, subscribe, and tap the bell. Your support fuels me to keep sharing. And hey, videos like this can vanish without warning, so stick with me now. One last thing, What's your go-to trick for getting your baby to sleep? White noise or otherwise? Drop it in the comments. I'm all ears for your stories.